Hello everybody and welcome back to another book related video here on my channel. It is the beginning of May, which means we have to go over last month's monthly wrap up, figure out which books I did or maybe did not tackle from my TBR from the previous month, and of course my favorite books, my thoughts on a lot of these books. And right now I feel like it's the perfect vibe. It's storming, it's been storming for a few days, but it's thunderstorming right now outside. It's nice and dark and very contrasty outside and wet, and I just feel like it's such a great day to be inside before I have to go to work. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into my monthly wrap up for the month of April. I guess to start off, we should probably go over my April TBR and also which books I maybe did tackle and maybe did not tackle. I'm gonna give myself a half rating for one of these books just for the fact that I am currently reading one of the books, but like I said, I haven't finished it. So I have only tackled 3.5 books out of 6. Last month I was very ambitious and I thought I could tackle 6 books, and we were so busy, and also it took me I think 15 days or so to read the first book and finish it. I just didn't really have time to read, and I still kind of don't. So this month for sure on my TBR jar video that I will be picking probably tomorrow, I might try and film. I'm only going to be picking 4 books. We're going to go back to 4 because we've been way too busy here lately and it's been hard to even read 3 books. All right, I have all my books here. The first book on my TBR, The Hobbit. Did I actually tackle this? Even though I've said this on so many TBRs and I never got around to it previously, and I said because of that fact that I was going to put it back on my TBR because I pulled a great prompt for this book. I did not. I'm gonna stop putting this on TBRs, to be honest, because I really wanted to get to it. I really tried to get to this, but since the month ended, I'm still in the middle of my last book. This technically was going to be the next book I picked up. I was this close to reading it, but I just ran out of time, and I'm still looking forward to reading it, so I might just try and read it or pick it up for something else, not necessarily put it on a TBR ever again, because I'm so sorry to keep putting this on and to not actually read it. Then I have Rock Bottom Girl. This is my first Lucy Score book that I actually did read. I did tackle this book, and you'll get to know my thoughts on it a little bit more. House of Salt and Sorrows. This was book number 3 on my TBR, and I did in fact tackle this book as well. And then we have Iron Flame, and as much as I really wanted to get to this book too, because of how thick and how big it is, I just did not feel like getting to it. I knew I was too busy, and of course, like I said, I wanted to get to The Hobbit first before this, so I definitely did not have time for this book. This is the only other one that I did not technically tackle from last month's TBR. Clockwork Angel, I just spoiled it, but yes, I did actually read this one. And then finally, the last book for my TBR, which I'm currently in the middle of, so I'll give myself a point, The Hunger Games. Therefore, since this will be in May's wrap up, and also these 2 I didn't read, we're going to put these aside and not talk about these 3 books. But in this wrap up, let's go ahead and talk about these 3 lovely books that we have. We will go in order. So technically, actually at the end of March, like I said, it was like 15 days. March 28th through April 13th, I actually started Clockwork Angel, and it took me about 2 weeks or so to get through this book. I really enjoyed it. I did do this actually for a read it and unhaul it, so if you want more thoughts a little bit, you can go check out that video. I really enjoyed this. I have no clue why I never picked this book up, even though I have just this entire trilogy. I never read a Cassandra Clare book either, and I feel like I would have loved this in middle school. It was giving me a more nostalgia feeling. I really enjoyed just spending time in this world. I felt like it was a great, fast-paced for the most part. I liked the characters. I liked a lot of things that were going on, and I'm very intrigued for the next book, but at the same time, I felt like this book ended where I didn't need to immediately hop into it. You know how some books you get left on such a big cliffhanger, or you just are so much in love with the world, in love with everything about the book, that immediately you have to pick up the next book in the series or try and dive back into that world. I didn't have that feeling for this book. Like, I'm actually pretty happy that I at least tackled this one. In theory, I technically could walk away and never pick up the second book, but I do definitely want to finish this trilogy and maybe also get the Mortal Instruments. I think that one will be a really good series, and I think also that's the next one I'm supposed to read. I don't know what order I'm going in. Because I had this trilogy, I started with this one. But yes, I very much enjoyed this. I had a really fun time. Like I said, it was more nostalgia. I feel like I would have loved it as a kid. And I also did rate this 4 stars. Next, starting on April 13th and going all the way till the 21st, I actually picked up A Romance, my first Lucy Score book. This is again a first time author for me. And this is, I think, the only standalone. No, Forever Never is a standalone. That book is on my 25 books I want to read in 2025. But this book was just one that I picked up at Aldi's for a couple bucks. I think like 6 or 8. And I was really intrigued about it. For some reason, it's sitting on my shelf. I just really wanted to read it. So when I got the prompt for a romance book, I gravitated towards it, and I am honestly so glad I did. I fell in love with this book for some reason. I think because it was more of a story, less of romance, because I'm not a very big romance person. I do like subplot of romance if it's in fantasy books, sci-fi books, YA books, but it's not the normal genre I gravitate towards. For the most part, also, I don't like a lot of description with my romance, and that's the other thing. I think technically it was like one descriptive scene, and then Most of it was also at the end of the book. The descriptiveness was maybe like 3 pages long. I was at work and I just basically skipped it. I didn't really sit there and read it, but I really love this story, and I love how if you take aside, for the most part, besides a little bit of the indie, because you know they get their happily ever after, you know, all the normal typical romance things, if you take the romance completely out of this book, I feel like this book alone could be its own book, like a standalone type. You don't need the romance to make this a book. This book had enough plot in a way that if we were just following this character and her trying to make herself better, like she's bouncing back from hitting rock bottom and she's trying to help the girls soccer team go from always losing to maybe getting a couple wins in the season. I feel like that alone, that plot, her gravitating through or moving through high school in a different way because she's an adult now instead of in high school, also kind of reliving some of her high school years. I feel like this alone is a good story, and it was a lot of the book. And I know some people don't like that. It's more of like a slow burn romance, which I really appreciate. I love that a lot more. But like I said, I liked how it basically could stand by itself without the romance. So I think that's why I love this book so much more than any other romance for the most part that I've ever really read. Nicholas Sparks are mainly the only romances that I rate higher than 4 stars, and that's just because there's more plot and emotion in his books, and that's kind of how I felt with her books. So I'm very excited to now get into Forever Never and then the Knock 'Em Out trilogy, since I have all of those, all 4 of those. And also, this is probably the highest rating besides Nicholas Sparks I've ever given a romance that was especially hyped up on Book Talk, BookTube. I rated this 4.5 stars. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed this so much. I rated it that high, and I love the characters. I didn't have a problem with a single character in there. Some characters kind of turn around. I like how it's very typical with high school people. The ones who acted a certain way in high school grew up and stayed around the little high school area, let's just say, and they still acted like they were the best. Versus the people who really, you know, they might have had issues in school, or let's just say like the less popular people. Those people are the ones that grew up and moved either out of state or just away, more so out of state, and they're making a life for themselves. And I just find it very fitting because it's very true to the stereotype. And also it was just, I don't know, I felt like the whole outcome, the plot, and then the overcoming some of the personal problems that our main character faced, I feel like it was just a really interesting book. So 4.5 stars for this. I'm very excited to get into her other books. And also, she was an author that I wanted to in the beginning of the year pick up and see if I wanted to read more books from her, which is great. And our final book of April, from the 21st through the 27th, was House of Salt and Sorrows. This is a YA fantasy, one of my favorite genres. I absolutely love this genre so much. And this book, for some reason, I was so intrigued the entire time. I like the characters. I love the sisters. I love the little, like, not necessarily a mystery, but it's more of like a curse in a way. And I also love, in my mind, how I was just thinking back to Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses. I know technically the 12 Dancing Princesses is its own tale, but I grew up on the Barbie version. So this whole time when they were getting their little fairy shoes, I was thinking back to the Barbie movie, which I have not seen in probably like 15 to 20 years. But I was thinking about how the littlest of girls are like yelling like, oh, dancing shoes. And then how they were acting when they went to the different world is the same when these girls and the sisters would go to the other world. It was just reminding me so much of that story, especially with the father and how he was with the girls, reimagining that Barbie movie, which sounds so weird, but nostalgia for this book for sure. Love the story, love the plot, love the characters. There were a couple characters that I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit sad about. There were some characters I was very like mixed emotions, not in a bad way, like angry, but definitely I had mixed feelings about a lot of things. And reading this book, the excitement I felt hopping back into it, and just, I don't know, I just felt like this month was really great for reading, not many books, but really great for like how I felt nostalgia wise or just reading in general. And actually I rated this one really, really high. I rated this one 5 stars. How much it flowed, and again, YA fantasy, it's my favorite genre. So these are the 3 books that I read in April, and let's go ahead and go over some monthly statistics and some other things for my reading journal. I guess since I have it open, let's go over my bingo. And let me just tell you, we got 2 bingos this month. We're now officially, now that we've tackled our first bingo, we have now officially been getting more and more. I've just been kind of circling and putting them down, even though it doesn't really matter. I've been labeling which one's my second one and which one's my third one. So we have one going horizontal at the second row, immediate middle we have going vertically. That one was actually my second one. First, we'll go through the prompts for each book. One of the prompts that I crossed off was a book with mostly blue on the cover, so I picked A House of Salt and Sorrows. We had a prompt for read a new author, which of course I put down Lucy Score. And finally, a YA book, which is of course Clockwork Angel. Angel. So going over the prompts that made the 2 bingos. Let's start with the vertical one, the third down. So we have a book under 500 pages, a reread, a free space, which I just put a book on the TBR, read a new author, and a thriller. And then the horizontal one, second row down, we have a book with chapter titles, finished a series, a reread, a 5-star read, and a book with mostly blue on the cover. I crossed off 1 book from my 25 books I want to read in 2025. It was House of Salt and Sorrows. This is the only one that I got to cross off, which actually made it 9 books out of 25. I'm not gonna say that's necessarily great. I feel like I'm starting to slack now the months have been passing, but whatever. 1 book is better than none. I don't want to say for my physical TBR what it went up to. I think last month I said we had 90 books on my physical TBR left to read. I have 93 now. We went up to 111 in total of what I've written down, but since I've read about 18 books, yeah. 93 books. My top genre is still mystery with 5 books, but romance is slowly creeping up there with 3 books. I wish it was more YA fantasy or a fantasy in general. And finally, I read 3 books this month at 1,370 pages. And of course, like I said, I had 1 5-star. My favorite book of the month, it had to be A House of Salt and Sorrows. This was my 5-star, and I just had such a great time reading this book. That's everything I have for my monthly wrap up for the month of April. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Be sure to stay tuned for my TBR for May. I hope to film that probably tomorrow, if not a couple days. We've been a little bit busy, so I'd like to film and then of course edit them and post these 2 videos back to back, probably a Sunday and also the next Wednesday after that. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you in another video here on my channel, and as always, God bless.